All right, great. Good morning. So just want to kick this presentation off. We've called it starting in pole position. It's really the impetus here is to take what you do already from a selling perspective and apply the same strategies that you would to social media. The goal of the presentation is real simple. We're going to go through a couple of objectives. The first objective is to talk about your profile and develop a profile that fits your brand and change the way you look at how you use LinkedIn. The other one is enhance your strategy for business development and proactive networking and utilize the existing strategies that you already are doing today. And that's one of the things I like to really stress here is that you as salespeople are doing all of these strategies today. It's just about using social media to bring them to a new level and really enhance the amount of people that you can connect with, maintain relationships with, and actually influence over the course of your day, week, or month, or even your year. And lastly, set yourself apart by using strategies to nurture your network, demonstrate your value, be a thought leader and a subject matter expert, and then really become an influencer and advisor. And through that strategy, create demand, increase your pipeline, accelerate your sales cycle, increase your sales productivity, and really ultimately increase your revenues. That is ultimately the goal. The other thing that I'll say here is I may jump into another window because something happened this morning that I just decided I was going to do, and it actually turned out to be pretty good. You know, just again using the network to build synergies with people and connecting them, and I'll go through that as well. So again, any questions submit through the chat window, and we'll get through it. So if you look at a lot of what people do on LinkedIn today, your profile is really an online resume. Most people utilize it to really just accentuate what they've done from a career perspective. You know, do you have a picture? You know, one of the things that there's a statistic on LinkedIn that if you have a picture, you're more likely to have be drilled down on from a search perspective. The other one is, do you have sentences that start with, proven track record, top performer, sales leader, tenured success in sales, are there jobs listed with no information? And, are your recommendations only from coworkers? This is pretty traditional in the sense of how people utilize LinkedIn. There's nothing wrong with this. I would say that this is fine if you want to have your profile out there and be kind of segmented by, people who are looking for jobs, people who are looking, recruiters. There's nothing wrong with this type of profile. However, if you look at what I like to say is your profile should be more about your brand. It should be about you. If you're like me, you've got an ego, you're a salesperson, I think people buy from me. So what I've tried to represent here is create a profile that really talks about and shows what you can do for the customer, right? What you can do with someone who's potentially, someone you're going to be doing business with. And I like to look at, people three ways. They're either, prospects, customers, or suspects. And again, this is about proactively networking with people and using LinkedIn from a proactive perspective. So a professional picture. The one thing that a statistic is that a profile gets reviewed 20% more of the time with a picture. A professional summary. Not just about what you do from sales, but also what your customers have done. I would suggest that all of you have been involved with some very substantial integrations, substantial implementations for call center. You should be able to take credit for being involved in that, being someone who is a part of that strategy and, more importantly, helped really create the idea that ultimately went there. I would also say that this is really a point where as people why people buy from you. So I think accentuating that and putting that into your profile is really key because ultimately at the end of the day, people buy from people. And I would suggest that the customers who buy from you are really buying from you because they trust you. You've spent time developing a relationship with them. You've spent time developing a rapport with the people they work with. You've spent time introducing them to the key people within Interactive Intelligence. But ultimately, they're really buying you. So really, it's about taking that whole paradigm of who they're buying from and creating a brand. I always say to people, if you're doing research on a company, you're going to go to the company website and look at some research on that person, on that company, to find out about what they do, how they do it, who their customers are, who their partners are. My thought and theory is that you should create a profile that is the same way. The last I checked, there's no website that says, michaelconti.com. So for lack of having a website like that, I have LinkedIn as my LinkedIn profile that provides the michaelconti.com, if you will. The other thing is that search engine optimization. It's very key once you start using LinkedIn and social media that you want to have the keywords, the websites, the blogs, the public URL, your specialties. You want those things to be defined that are in tune with the search engine, with the words that people are going to use to search on. Even your professional picture becomes part of the search engine. So if you look at the file name of the picture that I use on LinkedIn, it's actually Michael Conti Call Center, Contact Center, and a couple other terms, .jpg, and then it's uploaded into the engine, into the LinkedIn engine, and that's part of the overall search engine optimization that you do. The other thing is I noticed that a lot of people always have recommendations from coworkers. To me, if you're building this brand, this is a great place to really get recommendations from your customers. So if you're trying to engage with CIOs, COOs, CEOs, then you want to have recommendations from that level as well. Recommendations from coworkers are nice. I don't think it really gives you any advantage. I think having recommendations from customers is really the key. And then ultimately be honest, right? Certainly coworkers can get into your profile. They can kind of see the representation that you're creating out there on the web, and certain other customers that you've dealt with. So you really want to have a sustainable brand that's not only honest but also sustainable, that you can kind of, when they meet you, it's a brand that you're going to carry forward at every meeting. So it basically becomes your online representation of you. Hopefully that makes sense with everybody. What are some of the things that you can do on LinkedIn? Real simply, and again, these are things that you're doing today, but ultimately you can do in a much better light. We're going to drill down on each one of these different things. So you can build your brand like we talked about. We'll go into a little bit more detail on that. You can communicate with executives. I have found that executives will answer their LinkedIn mail. Very simply, their mail on their inbox at work has gatekeepers. It also has a lot of junk like our own mail, but mail from social media seems to actually get answered, and there's not a lot of spam in their inbox from LinkedIn. So what ultimately they actually do respond to it. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. You can get on the radar of users and buyers long before they're ready to buy. So if you actually go out and proactively network with these people, you can then be on their radar using your status update to promote things that are interesting to you and your network. So many of you I'm already linked up with. You'll notice that I promote a couple of status updates a day. They're never interactive. Intelligence updates, because Interactive does enough of that themselves. What I do is basically send value-added information from subject matter experts that I get on Twitter and LinkedIn and other sources. Just a quick answer to the question. Yes, I will make the presentation. The first question was, will I make the presentation available after the presentation? Definitely yes. And as far as the LinkedIn upgrades, I will talk about that as we go through it. Definitely. The other one is referral building. So if you look at your network out there, it's not just referring yourselves. It's more about referring your customers, referring your coworkers, referring your partners, referring consultants that are out there in the marketplace. It's about creating an ecosystem of all the people that you work with today, again, but building it within the confines of LinkedIn and social networking. For instance, Barbara Komish is one of our coworkers, Marnie Gerritsen and Mark Gross. When I met them at iSales training, the first thing I did after I met them, I came home and then I introduced them to all the people in my network that are in their territories. So I've been selling call centers and engineering call centers for 20-something years at this point. My history goes back. You can all see it on LinkedIn. But I've got a very robust network of people all over the country. So it was very easy for me to take, a Marnie Garrettson and say, hey, everybody, here's Marnie. She's selling in Northern California. I was able to go into LinkedIn, sort my group by people in California and in that area, and just say, here, introduce her. And that added about 30 or 40 people to her network, which ultimately, hopefully will expand and grow and ultimately turn into something. You can do research and business planning. We'll go into that. Identifying the right contacts of who you want to connect with and then why they should do business with you. Create lists and queries for business development. And then really the big thing is cultivate relationships. You can certainly get enough competitive information, sales intelligence, join groups, maybe even start groups, and then just add value to your overall network. So just real quickly, I'll ask, is there anybody who has any questions on any of these things? We're going to get into a couple of these things in detail. But really the other key is joining groups, and I'll talk about why joining groups is really important. So let's talk about real quickly business planning and business intelligence. So here's where I'll talk about, you'll look on the left is some of the different building a list criteria. So if you've looked at LinkedIn, I do have a premium account. What I always tell people is before you're ready to create before you're ready to go out and buy a premium account, I would suggest start using LinkedIn, and then when you hit up against something you can't do because you need a premium account, that's when I suggest you actually buy it. So you figure out what you're using LinkedIn for, how you're using it, and whether or not where it says, oh, if you want this information, you have to upgrade your account. That would be the time when I'd say make the decision to go ahead and upgrade your account. But really quickly, if you look here, I've just done a quick snapshot. And again, my goal really is to say I sell call centers in the New York, New Jersey area, for lack of a better word. Just use it for the example. In my mind, in my sick ego, if you will, I say that if I have the chance to influence somebody or if I can meet them, they'll do business with me. So really what I do is I look at this snapshot of people in the New York area, and you can see here where I have the greater New York area, Rochester, Buffalo, Albany, Syracuse, etc. There are 13,000 people with the term call center in their profile on LinkedIn. So to me, that's 13,000 people that I need to know, whether they're people at customers or prospects or suspects or even competitors. These are people that ultimately I want to network with, and some of the competitors will be past employee or past coworkers of mine. Now, one of the other key concepts is why you should be in groups, right? So LinkedIn allows you to be in 50 different groups. So I always tell people, why should you be in groups? Well, a couple of reasons. One is groups to me are like online trade shows. I go to trade shows, and when I'm at trade shows, I want to meet people who are like-minded, who are looking at the same types of technology or interests that I'm interested in. So by adding myself to groups within LinkedIn, I'm now using another area that I can filter with on LinkedIn. So once I have this list of 13,000 people, I can see which ones of these people are in particular groups. There's a couple of reasons why you want to do this. One is to segment the groups, but the other one is that while people who are, if you notice, I'm real quickly, I'm just going to go back real quick. Oops, sorry. From current slide. So now the group, like I said, the group concept. Let me just open up another window here. Sorry. Okay, so again, getting back to the group concept, think of a group as just an online trade show. It also allows you to break the ice with people. So if you're looking to proactively connect with someone, why not proactively connect with people who you're in a group with? You'll notice that when you're connected with someone on LinkedIn, you can send them a message. LinkedIn also has a concept of in-mail, which I think when you don't pay for an account, you get 1 or 2 in-mails. If you pay for an account, you get a few more in-mails. If you join a group and you're in the same group with someone, you can send them messages all day long without having to have a paid-for account or to have them send them a message. So what better icebreaker is a way to say to someone proactively that you've found in a group, here I went into the Worldwide Call Center Network that has 32,000 people. I did a search on New York, and here's some of the people that it ultimately came up with. So I would say these are people that I would know. So I would typically come in here and say, send a message, and say something like, hey, I saw your profile in the group. I noticed that we both have call centers in common. I've been in the call center space for a lot of years. If there's anything I can be of interest or service to you, let me know. Feel free to send me an invitation to connect if you'd like to connect. And then what happens 9 times out of 10, they go back to my profile, they review it, and then they send me an invitation to connect. So really what I've done is I've proactively given them the opportunity to see if I'm someone they want to connect with. I've sent them a message through the group, so I've used the group as the icebreaker. I've used my profile and my recommendations as a means to give them a flavor of who I am, and then I've given them the power to actually connect with me. So that's the other thing with LinkedIn. You only have 3,000. You're only allowed to send 3,000 invitations to connect, which is actually pretty good. You can connect with up to 30,000 people. You can send 3,000 connections. But with my strategy, I usually get the people to send me the invitation to connect. So what happens is I come into a group, I find the people I want to connect with, I let them come back to my profile, and then once they're connected, I can use my status updates. I can use other people in their area or their community to have a reason to connect with them. So it's a strategy about, proactively connecting and then proactively nurturing these people and then getting on their radar so that when they're actually ready to do something, you are one of the, for lack of a better words, trusted sources for them. And again, I'm going to go through a couple of different scenarios of how this has worked. So real quickly, I'm just going to pull up the profile here. I want to see if there's any questions. No questions so far, so I'm gonna move on then to the next slide. If there's any questions, feel free to send the link. Here's a great example of some competitive information and sales intelligence. It's a little blurry, so hopefully you can see it. But here, last year, I was searching on H.J. Heinz. I was trying to do some business development. By looking at H.J. Heinz, I was able to go in, find some people, put in some keywords, and quickly find out what technology they were using. So here we were looking at, they were using Cisco Call Manager, Cisco Unity Express, Cisco Unified Contact Center. So not only was I able to ultimately find some people who I was able to derive some information for, I was able to find who the incumbent technology provider was, and then I was able to segment the message that we sent to these folks, which was our strategy of interconnecting CIC with Cisco. So we didn't target them with any type of rip and replace strategy or, all-in-one is better than what you have. We were able to target H.J. Heinz through lead development, through some cold calling efforts, as well as, some social efforts all around, integrating CIC with Cisco Call Manager. Quite frankly, we didn't get anywhere with Heinz, but at least we were able to, send some messages out that were targeted. It was a sound strategy rather than just kind of a typical pick up the phone, cold call, and give them a standard boilerplate message of why they should talk to Interactive Intelligence. Further on the sales intelligence side, if you've set up your profile properly, you'll start to get information on job leads that are specific to your territory. Here's a great job that popped up into my status feed for TIA Caref. So not only was I able to get this pop-up because of the term call center, but I was able to see exactly what type of technology they had. So here it gave me the holy grail of what they had, and clearly I was able to come back with a great message. And actually, I'm still talking to. I spent all year nurturing and talking to people at TIA Caref. I continue to talk and nurture them now. But again, my strategy was really going, directly to the multi-vendor, high total cost of ownership approach, the administration of all these different objects, and, hitting them with the total cost of ownership of the all-in-one versus the multi-point premise deployment. So again, utilizing for sales intelligence, competitive intelligence, I spend a great deal of time in LinkedIn, probably more than I should some days, but it's definitely a part of everything I do. It's definitely a part of how I do business development and how I interact with people. Also, you'll notice that unfortunately some of our coworkers now work for us. We've all worked at other companies. We all worked at, for competitors. Our coworkers, our former coworkers who used to be part of our ecosystem, still continue to be part of our ecosystem now that they're online. So what happens is when I see someone past coworker of mine who's now with Cisco Systems, and he's a call center consultant. If he hasn't updated his activity feed, I can see who he's connecting with, and I can, then see that, oh, well, you know what? Maybe he's connecting with someone at Travelers Insurance. Perhaps there's something going on there. Maybe I can actually look and see if I can connect with people proactively under the same strategy that I used before. Now I can use it to proactively connect with people and strategy. Yes, so there was a question from Mike Regan. I'll do that on the screen after, absolutely. So the question was, can I walk through how to use the search engine and how you built that layer into the intelligence in your LinkedIn profile? Yes, I will go through that towards the end. So just moving to getting on the radar of buyers, I'll take you through a couple of steps of where we've done that. So here you've got the CIO of Party City. So I found out this was going back. I mean, some of these are a little dated, but we're still working with Party City today. Basically was able to connect with the CIO on LinkedIn, sent him a message, talked about how the wife and the kids are big fans of Party City. Also talked about how I knew from my contacts at Right Now that they were looking at doing a call center replacement. Again, now I'm on his radar. I've sent him a couple of other messages. We continued discussions, but I know I'll be part of the evaluation when they're ready to look at call center technology. Here we've got an example of where we've got a CFO from J.P. Morgan Chase. Again, could not get this woman to, by the way, she's now with Ernst & Young, but she was with J.P. Morgan Chase when we went there. Could not get this woman to respond to any of her messages when I was sending her messages and calling her on the phone, but she did respond very quickly to emails on LinkedIn. Memorial Sloan Kettering, I think, is a great example of it. Memorial Sloan Kettering, we were educating them for a couple of years, and then basically when they decided to put the RFP out, they told me they were not going to give Interactive Intelligence the RFP. I tried to reach out to the CIO a couple of times through the traditional channels, email, and also her voice call. We would not get a response to her. Went right to her on LinkedIn and got a response relatively quickly back from her. We were able to get on the RFP as a result. I used some personal story to play a little bit here, which was the truth, as well as the Gartner report, and suggesting that they took a look at it. We got on the RFP, and we were able to successfully win that opportunity. Another one, again, staying on the radar, this guy Rob, I stayed on his radar for a long time. He came back to me finally when he moved from New York down to Virginia, ended up working for the American Red Cross. I passed this opportunity over to Mike Shields. Mike Shields ultimately closed it. It was $1 million+ opportunity. And again, just staying relevant to people, staying connected with people, and staying on their radar. Utilizing LinkedIn, they came back. I was able to pass it over to Mike Shields, and he was able to close that deal. Here's another opportunity where I was just being a resource for Karen Nutt. I was able to turn this lead over back to, once I built it, being a resource out there, I get a lot of pings, people pinging me from all over the country. Here was a person that reached out to me. I was able to put them back in touch with Karen Nutt, and Karen was able to run with this quite easily. Again, putting some information out there. Here, a person from Kaplan Test Prep, who I think one of my counterparts in New York is working right now. She asked me for some information. I turned her on to a couple of consultants that I knew, and we continue to again, provide information for her in a non-threatening, non-salesy, non-clubber over-the-head kind of way. You'll hear me use the term pay it forward. There's a great deal of kind of paying it forward as part of this strategy. And ultimately, though, what it lends is over time you're able to develop rapport with these people online, and then take it offline. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then finding future coworkers. So I used LinkedIn to find my coworker Claire Fleece, who's now one of the engineering managers here at Interactive Intelligence. At the time, I reached out to my network, found someone who was certainly capable, and pulled her in for some interviews, and she passed with flying colors. So I mean, again, it's utilizing the network for everything. And then here, someone proactively reached out to me. So here was the voice engineer. I must have connected with someone that he knew. This guy was a lead call center engineer at Morgan Stanley. He reached out to me proactively. So the more you're connecting with people in organizations, they see that you're connecting, they come back, they look at your profile, they'll want to connect with you as well. And then quite frankly, if it's a user buyer or a tech buyer, I'll connect with them proactively all day long if they send me invitations to connect. This was a great example. Joseph, I must have connected with someone at Morgan Stanley. He saw that I connected with them, and then he reached out to me as well. And then again, through my status updates, I can kind of keep him connected, or if I find jobs or something that may interest Joseph, I'll shoot it out to him and see if I can be a resource to him. It said, Mike, there was a question here from Mark Hurdle. It said, Mike, you were able to get competitive information based on connections of our competitors we're making. Could you review that, please? Did you need, Mike, do you need me to go back to the slide? I believe I covered that a little bit in the slide before. So, Mark, if you can unmute yourself, I just want to go back to this particular slide. Mark Hurdle, this was the slide where I was talking about that. Could you just kind of expand your question a little bit? Mark? I'll just give you another quick second. Mark Hurdle, could you just kind of expand on your question? The question was, you were able to get competitive information based upon connections of our competitors we're making. Could you review that?
Maybe not.
Okay, maybe not. So essentially, I'll just answer it real quickly. So if I go to, yes, go ahead.
It looks like Mark's on the conference bridge. He's not.
Oh, he's not listening to it? Okay.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just answer it the best I can. Essentially, if I see that my competitors are connecting with people, most people connect with people reactively, which I think is pretty much until you take on a proactive strategy. That's your strategy with LinkedIn is you go to a meeting, you come back from the meeting, and then you go and connect with people. So I see here, Scott Sherman is now connected to Elizabeth Tobin, infrastructure project manager at Travelers. I can make a small assumption. May or may not be a great assumption, but I can make an assumption that he just had a meeting with Elizabeth Tobin, and there was reason for them to connect. I may be able to, at that point, drill down on Elizabeth Tobin, maybe find some reason to reach out to her, or more importantly, what I would do probably, because Cisco usually makes that infrastructure play, I would actually go in and then proactively find other people on the business side of Travelers to try to connect with proactively and try to influence them, or maybe get the opportunity to call them up. Or what I would do here is say to my lead gen person, hey, you know what, go start poking around at Travelers, see who you can find in the database, see who you can find on LinkedIn, and then give them a call back, give them a call and see if there's something going on there. So I mean, you can take this little nugget from what you see here on the screen, and you can take it a bunch of different ways, right? So you could go, all right, I won't call the infrastructure here because infrastructure is going to play with Cisco. I'll go to the business side, I'll go to the financial buyer side, and I'll try to connect with people that way. The other thing is, I know Terry noticed on the meeting when he said, no more cold calls. We do cold call, but we actually, one of my strategies when I connect with people is I always try to suggest that on LinkedIn that one of the notes, actually I think I have a copy of it if I'm not mistaken, but I always like to say to people, oh, I noticed your profile on LinkedIn. I mean, one of the things about putting a profile out on LinkedIn is having someone take a look at it. So when I call people up now, I always go back and acknowledge that I saw their profile on LinkedIn and that it was really actually pretty unique or nice, or it was informative, or their recommendations were great. I mean, just something as simple as that, guys, the other thing I stress here, and I didn't do it at the beginning, but when I'm at iSales, I always say that these strategies are not mine. These strategies, I have a book right next to my desk. It's called Dale Carnegie's, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The book was written in 1939. I read it. A sales manager told me 20 years ago to read it, and I read it every couple of years. And when I'm getting stuck on strategies, I'll always open up the book. One of the quotes in the book is, if you want to be interesting to people, be interested. So the greatest thing you can do with people is show them that you're interested in them. And quite frankly, the strategy still works. I mean, again, these strategies that I'm sharing with you here is just taking the same things that you're using today very successfully and putting them here online. Let me just kind of do a step-by-step example of social selling. Here I connected with the VP of Operations at Vonage. You'll see I connected with them on February 2012. A year later, so I mean, I kind of worked it, through this thing. I didn't club them over the head with a sales strategy. I kind of slow played it, as I like to say. 2013, I noticed that we had gotten some information that there was something going on. I reached back out to him and said, hey, Rob, we haven't talked in a while. I just wanted to follow up. I understand there's an opportunity there. I'd love to, I'd love to get some more information. Now, I never spoke to Rob live. This relationship is exclusively online, and just through the relationship online, he comes back to me and sends me this message. He essentially gives me the holy grail of what was going on there. They were looking at looking at some sort of a replacement project. They've grown from 2.4 agents to now 1,000 agents, so they've had some major downsizing. They have the Cadillacs of the system: Aspect, Avaya, Genesis, Nice, Nexidia right now. So I was able to connect with him. I asked him to reach out. He introduced me to Phyllis Shaw. Just to real quickly, so Phyllis Shaw then put me in touch with the people who were running the project for them. So what they did was, the first phase of the project was to bring in some consultants to build their RFP. I was able to give them 3 different consultants to pick from. They actually used one of the consultants, Don Van Doren, who's part of our program. They used Don to actually build the RFP. I just spoke to them the other day. They're going to probably put the RFP out mid this year, and we're going to get a seat at the table. So not only were we able to kind of slow play, we were able to kind of see what the competitive landscape was. We were able to, I was able to position Interactive Intelligence not as kind of a club you over the head sales force. Then I was able to place a consultant in there who was going to be favorable to Interactive. And again, no one's going to hand us the opportunity, but we're going to get a fair seat at the table. By doing this legwork up front, slow playing the opportunity, I was able to, place the consultant. So I'm just going to take a quick breath here and read the question here. So it says, Mike, from Mike Reagan, I understand and like the approach you take with contacts who offer the potential to turn into a prospect and then a customer. But when it comes to how you connect with consultants, knowing that they need to maintain a vendor-agnostic approach, can you offer some thoughts, especially in the light of the fact that so many called independent consultants tend to be Cisco-centric, Avaya-centric? Would you say that spending time to build LinkedIn connections with any consultant is worth it? And better to spend time with going after end users instead? Absolutely a great question. Here's what the first response I would say to you is that doing it in social media is very, very simple. So it's not like you have to invest a lot of time in dinners and cultivating the relationship. I can take a consultant and send his information to, I just did it the other day actually, so a consultant who makes his business with Cisco, I was able to promote him via my network on LinkedIn through just a status update. I said, hey, here's so-and-so, this is what he does. And then I was able to introduce him to my local network. So, the simple matter is that they may be prone to one particular technology, but if you can represent yourself, and if you are kind of more of a fair business person who's open-minded to say, hey, look, whatever the customer wants is ultimately what they're entitled to. I just want to be part of the evaluation. I think you can create a non-threatening relationship with a consultant And as you bring business to that consultant or introduce the consultant to other people and expand their network, you're ultimately going to become a lot more valuable to that person than their relationship with any other sales rep that's out there in the marketplace. And over time, you'll notice that that consultant will start to gravitate to you because you're providing information, you're providing Gartner reports, you're providing relationship building, you're providing these things without any strings attached. You'll ultimately be able to win that consultant over any other sales rep that's out there because other sales reps are just not doing it. They may gravitate to the technology that they know because they've spent time with Cisco, they've spent time with Avaya. That's natural. Unfortunately, that's our marketplace. There's a lot more implementations of Avaya and Cisco and ShoreTel, et cetera, out there, or not ShoreTel necessarily, but certainly Avaya and Cisco, that we have to do that with consultants. My thought is that you can actually create an environment where it's non-threatening and you're providing value-added information, not marketing information, but real value-added information. You'll notice that a lot of the subject matter experts, the talking heads, the analysts that are out there will provide all their information via LinkedIn and Twitter. You can connect up to these people on Twitter and LinkedIn, and you can then be the purveyor of that information to your network. And always give credit to those other sources, and while you're giving credit, you're promoting them at the same time. So what you've done is you've just created this ecosystem of giving to your network by using information and content from your own network. And as a byproduct of that, your network will grow. Okay? So, Mike, just did that answer your question? Does that help? And I certainly, just to let everybody know, this is a strategy that takes time to develop. I spend a lot of time coaching the other sales reps. So anytime people want to talk about strategy, I love talking strategy. I love giving advice. I love talking about what I've done. Certainly, when I talk to you all, it helps create even more strategies, and it absolutely helps build. It absolutely helps build this into a better, more productive, and even more robust strategy. So I love talking on the side with people, setting up other meetings to do some coaching. Whatever you guys want, I'm more than happy to help out. So hopefully, Mike, that answered your question. And
yeah,
then,
Mike,
yep.
It did. Thank you very much. And I sent a quick follow-up question. I mean, who here within Interactive manages the consultants program? Because ideally what I'd like to do is, get a list of the regional key consultants in my backyard so I can maybe just start, this approach in terms of reaching out to them and establishing at least a LinkedIn connection with some of these guys.
Yep, that's Marsha Bailey.
Marsha
Bailey. So I encourage you to reach out to her, introduce yourself to her. She'll give you the contacts in your region, and then she can kind of show you where the consultant liaison program information is on the web. That way, as you go into LinkedIn and connect with people, or Twitter, whatever you want to use, you'll have that link, and they can get signed up for the consultant liaison program. And then what'll happen is Marsha will they'll get the standard marketing stuff from Marsha, and then you can influence them. It's kind of a two-prong approach. She'll handle the corporate marketing stuff, so you don't have to worry about being on message or on point for that, and then you can kind of focus on your territory development of that consultant.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
All right, and then have you, Mark Herkel sent another question. Have you created a call center consultant group for your area? Can you show it to us? So I have two groups that I've built on LinkedIn. So, one of the things I'll just say here that when you're on LinkedIn, a lot of times you'll notice that the groups have a lot of spam. So, and I hate that, just as probably you do as well. So I have a group for my New York, New Jersey customers who are, customers that are already in play with Interactive Intelligence, and I have them all network with each other. And then I have a group on LinkedIn that you'll see. It's called Call Center Interactions, Technology and Operations for Call Center people. And I built that group about a year ago. I started it. And I manage all the discussions in that group. It's not specifically for consultants, but there are consultants in there. I've invited people in there. And then what I do is I manage it so there's no spam. So everything that gets posted, I get to see first. I get to approve or delete it. People try to spam into it, but I delete them. there's about 500 people in there as well. And again, another great place to have to create. If you're, I think Carol Wyatt, who works out of Texas, she created a group for her community down in that Texas area, and she does the same thing. So she created a group and manages the conversation. She puts value-add information out to the group, and then manages the discussion so that it doesn't create a whole bunch of spam. So what I would say, Mark, is that strategy takes a little time. If you want, we could kind of take that offline, and I could show you how to build that after you've kind of built up the other stuff. Okay? So real quickly, the other thing that's really nice is once you connect up and once you create this strategy, I'll just give you another who else you want to connect with. Not, who are some of the other people that you might want to connect with. So here are two people that that are out there, Randy Bussey, who is the president of Workforce Development Group, and Richard Shapiro. So these are two authors that I originally connected with on Twitter. Then found out that they then connected with them on LinkedIn, and then recognized that they were in the New York area. So I met with both of them. Randy, I've had about a 2-year relationship with. Richard, I started a relationship with last year. Randy spoke at our 2012 user event here in New York. She didn't cost me a nickel. I was able to buy 70 copies of her books for all the guests, and she spoke for free at the event. Last year, I also did a lunch and learn. So one of the things that, if you're a sales guy like me, one of the things you hate is when you walk into a customer and the first thing they say is, "Oh, I only see Michael when he wants to sell me something." So I'm constantly looking for ways to add value and be able to go back to my customers and offer them something that is no strings attached from me. So one of the things I did last year was a lunch and learn we did up in Albany, New York. I set up a restaurant, a private room in a restaurant. We had customers. We had some prospects, 2 prospects in the room, and 1 customer represented in the room. We had about 25, 27 attendees. Randy did a 40-minute talk about her book. She talked about what she does, how she does it. She talked about the 5 key points and elements of her book. Then we had lunch, and then we opened it up to a beautiful Q&A session with the people in the room. Just to let you know, I think the whole day cost me about $350. Again, Randy didn't cost me anything. She even gave me the books for free to all the people who attended. She's gotten some follow-up business, and I closed one of the prospects already, which was a $430,000 opportunity out of that meeting. I'm still working on another one, which is about a $3 million CAS opportunity out of that meeting. And quite frankly, all I got to be was a fly on the wall in that discussion. It was great. Randy was wonderful. By the way, Randy is now working with Avtex. She's now signed up for a couple of different city tours with Avtex, so she's even expanded her relationship with some of the ecosystem at Interactive Intelligence. And then this year, I had Richard Shapiro join the New York, New Jersey user forum that we just did in November. We had a record. We had 140 people register for the event. We had 100 people show up. We did it at the large room at the Hard Rock Cafe. And Randy and Richard both sat on a panel with a couple of industry talking heads, Diane Halliwell, who's part of our consultant community, and Steve Layden, who's also, he blogs on nojitter.com. He came down and they did a panel discussion. Both Randy and Richard were on the panel discussion, and when anybody from the audience asked a question, they got a copy of both Randy and Richard's book, and we gave it to them, and it was wonderful. And we've got I've got a follow-up lunch and learn with B&H Photo, where Richard's going to come in. We're going to do the same meet and greet, kind of meet the author type of event. And by the way, just to let you know, again, I didn't come up with this. My cousin works for Rolling Stone magazine. He asked me one day if he wanted to come to a meet and greet with an author, and I said absolutely. I went to the Rolling Stones offices. I sat there and watched how it was set up. It happened to be Sammy Hagar who was pitching his book, and they had like a meet and greet with all of the executives at Rolling Stone and some of their advertisers. I got to sit there. I got to see him talk about the event. I watched the agenda, and I just said, hey, I could do this for my customers. So I took their idea, and I used the idea for what I do in my business. So, I mean, again, I'd like to think I'm creative, but I just take other people's great ideas, and I use them for myself most of the time. And here's one that was completely one. And it's something you can all do in your territory. Find the authors, find the consultants, find the subject matter experts. generally they'll give you these books for free, which is really nice, and you can help expand your relationship. Again, once you connect with these people online, you can take these relationships offline as well. So moving right along, how to add value to your network. These strategies I had pulled from Paul Castaigne's Sales Playbook. Some of you may know Paul Castaigne from Twitter or LinkedIn already from salesplaybook.com. He's got a group. It's a wonderful group on LinkedIn. What are some of the things you can do on LinkedIn? Be a matchmaker. Connect people. If you know people who are, the same job functions in different companies, introduce them to each other. Create and provide free resources for your network. If you think you got a cool app for your phone, or you found a website that allows you to do, help yourself, or, a free conference bridge, or a free Erlang strategy, or a free something for call center, send it out to your network. Connect with and get to know the recruiters. When you talk to the recruiters, you can find out what's going on at Avaya. You can find out what's going on at Cisco. You can find out what's going on at Shore Group and within your competitors. Always take the call from the recruiters. I don't know if you guys do, but I do, and they tell me what's going on, who's having trouble hiring, who's having trouble keeping people. Always great to know. Send a brand agnostic resource. So I don't really promote interactive intelligence. I'm really promoting a brand of call center technology, call center information, contact center, customer service, customer experience, first call resolution. Interactive intelligence is a marketing engine by itself. I have to present my brand, which is a call center subject matter expert or call center resource. So I'm always sending brand agnostic information. Interactive sends its own brand stuff. That's fine. I'd rather go be someone who's a facilitator of brand agnostic informations. Find brand agnostic resources to introduce them to your network, right? So like we just talked about, Mike, connect those people who are, presenting themselves, and kind of keep them on their toes of presenting themselves as what do you call it? Pay attention to the status updates and encourage people, validate people, give a damn, as Paul says. Offer to help in a non-salesy way. So, for instance, if someone puts a note out there that says, hey, I'm doing a strategy on remote agents, don't hit them up with a bunch of white papers on how interactive intelligence does remote agents. Maybe say to them, hey, why don't you check out VIP Desk, or why don't you check out My Customer XYZ? They're doing a lot of stuff on Home Agent. If you're interested, I can connect you with some of the principals over there or some of the key executives, and you can talk to them about what they do. You can promote interactive intelligence and promote your customers and promote your agenda without having to be so outwardly blunt about your agenda. Whenever I see information about a company or someone asking information, I'll always choose promoting a resource, a non-threatening resource, than club them over the head with a marketing pitch any day of the week. And I'll tell you, like they say, you catch more bees with honey or with a flower than you will with a fly swatter. And make it clear you want to help. So, I mean, if you're going to go out there and put some information out there, be as helpful as possible, and do it without expecting anything in return. Quite frankly, it's much more rewarding. I would think that, most of in your personal life, the more you kind of give, the more you receive. If you create this strategy online and you nurture it and you develop it, you'll see that it'll start to pull back. It'll start to pay off quite a great annuity. And I think, I've been sharing this strategy now for almost 2 full years at Interactive Intelligence, and the reason I started sharing the strategy was because I was getting dividends. I could equate direct and indirect revenues tied to it. So I started sharing it. Last year was a full year of presenting it at iSales, and the year before that I did it with just a few different sales reps who adopted it, and I'll share some of their success stories with you as well. So here's some suggestions on how to elevate and develop your online presence. Build your brand. Put your name out there. Put a nice professional picture. Make sure your keywords are synced up with what people are asking for. Connect your websites out there. So when I say websites, connect Interactive's website, connect their YouTube's page, connect their blog. Change your own URL. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but you all have a URL out there on LinkedIn. Most times it says, linkedin.com/name/ a bunch of different characters. You can modify that. Mine is Michael Conti 411. So again, that plays into the whole search engine aspect. Create a professional summary that A, has keywords in it, but more importantly talks about your brand and what you can do for your customers. I would imagine that what Terry McDonald has done for his customers is very unique from what Michael Conti does for his customers. So what you want to do is accentuate what you have done for your customers. So, and if you're not sure, think about if you had to ask your customers why they buy from Terry McDonald, why they buy from Mike Strahan, what is it about you that they like, ask them, and then basically articulate that in a professional summary, and then have them create recommendations. Again, not endorsements. The endorsements that you see out there happening on LinkedIn, where they say, do you want to endorse this person? That's more of a marketing strategy for LinkedIn. It makes the site look a little better. It makes it pop. It makes it part of this kind of gamification strategy that is out there on the web today. But more importantly, it keeps people on the website longer, which is really a key for LinkedIn. That's one of their things, is when they go back to their people who are advertising, they can say, well, people are spending X amount of more time. So endorsements really don't really help anything from a business perspective. It looks great, but really the key is recommendations from your customers. And if you're afraid to ask for it, I wouldn't be. Sometimes people come back and say, well, I don't want to ask this executive to put a recommendation out there for me because they're so busy. Basically, what I've done is when I go and ask a C-level person to put a recommendation out there for me, I'll say, hey, my online profile is really key. You've been a big part of helping me be successful. Would you mind making a recommendation for me? If it's okay, I've taken the liberty to write a few sentences here for you. If this works, please feel free to cut and paste it. If it doesn't, feel free to write your own. 9 times out of 10, when you do it like that, they'll actually write their own. Or I should say maybe 7 times out of 10, they'll write their own, and the rest of the time they'll actually take the one you wrote for them and they'll actually paste it. And if it's genuine and if it's real and if it's honest, they'll paste it. They'll have no problem doing it. If you look at my profile, I have almost all of my customers have created recommendations for me. And I would say maybe 50% of them I've written, and 50% of them they've written. The other strategy that I do, you'll notice that sometimes I'll write recommendations for people that I haven't done business with yet. Again, that's just another thing that you can do to cultivate. If you've worked with a customer and maybe they didn't even choose you, but you had a great relationship, you created a great rapport, write a recommendation. You write a recommendation for that person, you kind of own that. You're building that relationship. That person's going to move on to another company. A couple of years from now, they're going to move on to another company, or they're going to stay there, and maybe another part of the business is going to want to buy something. You do something like that, you've earned a connection with that person. You'll get a seat at the table. So what I always call that is relationship currency. You've created a great process with that. You've created a great relationship with that person during the sales process. Go ahead and reward them with a nice recommendation. Hey, maybe they didn't choose to buy my stuff, but you know what? I hope I get the opportunity to work with this guy again. He was professional, he was courteous, and he was very smart. Send something out there like that. You'll own that person. You'll be on that person's radar for life. And I guarantee you'll sell something to that person in the future sometime. Maybe not in 6 months, maybe not in 12 months, maybe not in 2 years. But within the long term of your career, you will ultimately sell something to that person. Develop your network. This is another key area. You guys all have networks out there. You're all on LinkedIn. If you've got a network, you really should be thinking about how to monetize it, how to develop it, how to make money from it, and make it work for you. A network is a living and breathing entity. I think of it as a crop that needs to be nurtured. I think of it as a place that's always going to drive some level of revenue. So for me, I think about my network as something that needs to be, constantly courted, like a relationship I'm building, whether it was, a date or a relationship with a child, whatever way you want to look at it. It needs to be touched. It needs to be felt. It needs to be loved. It needs to be nurtured. So you have to look for ways to continually do that. If you build your network and you do that, you will be able to monetize it. You will be able to monetize it over time. You also want to be unique. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Try to be different. Try to be unique. Try to find other ways for you to add value. Be proactive. So don't be reactive. It's very easy to be reactive. It's very easy to find information and be proactive to your network. So look for ways to be proactive. Just like you would be proactive during a sales cycle offline, you can be proactive with these people online. Join groups. So I noticed I had looked at some of the people who had joined the seminar the first time, and I looked at their profiles. I see some people are in groups, some people aren't. Definitely join groups. Again, this is a great way to bridge the gap with people. What groups should you join? Industry groups, vertical groups, different professional associations, or even local associations that are happening in your territory. And then I call the other one parallel groups that are out there on LinkedIn. And you say, what the heck is a parallel group? Well, there's call center groups, and then there's teleservices groups, and then there's workforce management groups, and then there's quality assurance groups. So those are what I would consider parallel groups. Here's another thought. If you're not sure what groups to join, find the people on LinkedIn you want to connect with and join the groups that they're in. Right? Now remember, you can join up to 50 groups out there. And then again, keep in touch, stay on the radar, and then work the process and we'll rate the results. Sometimes salespeople, we get caught up in immediate results, immediate gratification for some of our activities. Social selling, using your network, it takes time to develop. It's more of a slow play. I always talk about the World Series of Poker. It's kind of like sitting there and waiting for yourself to get that perfect set of cards. And then when you get that perfect set of cards, you play those set of cards the best you can. That's really what social selling is about. It's about being more giving, and then waiting for it to come back in turn. And sometimes it may not come back for you. It might come back for coworkers, but that's okay too, because you're the facilitator. You're the matchmaker. Essentially social networking, social selling, whatever you want to call it, it's about being social. So it's about getting out there. It's about, being an unconditional facilitator, a matchmaker, a resource. And again, don't promote yourself. There's really no room for self-promotion out there on these environments. So you can promote yourself indirectly by promoting your clients, promoting analysts, authors, subject matter experts, consultants, our business partners, and just let it out there. There's a lot more to be said about promoting other people than promoting yourself. Promoting yourself in social media is a big no-no. You'll come off as a boaster, as an ego, and most people won't want to deal with you. Don't spam while you're out there. Provide real content that's valuable. And again, you can get that from any of the analysts, authors, SMEs, our partners. You can get that from Twitter. You can get that from LinkedIn. And there's some great information out there that's free that you could provide. Especially, something as simple as the Gartner report. Once we publish the Gartner report and we have that link out there, giving it to your clients, that's a huge resource. That's a huge value. You could send it out to an email, or you could, add it to your status feed in LinkedIn. Next thing you know, you've just given it to the 2, the 3, the 4, the 500 people, or however many people that are in your LinkedIn network. You can provide that to them. And then again, be unconditional, and then make sure it's sustainable. So the last thing you want to do is create a social strategy, put a couple of posts out there and then never touch it again. So you got to create, as you're thinking about developing your online presence, you got to think about what you can do, how you can carve out some time. Maybe it's 1 day a week, maybe it's 2 days a week, maybe it's a half hour a day, whatever it is. You create this environment, and then you can create something that's sustainable and consistent. Just some other tips. If you're going to do this strategy, you definitely want to ping Denise Meyer and get the social media guidelines so you understand what are kind of the do's and don'ts of interactive intelligence and what kind of things you can do and you should do and things you shouldn't do. Don't jump in. Be a spectator while you build your strategy, while you build your profile, while you build your online presence. You can just see what other people are doing and then jump onto it. I love to say that the love you take is equal to the love you make. Social networking is about paying it forward. It's a pay it forward world. It's a pay it forward strategy. You'll see that the people that you're going to get the information from provide that information for free. All they want is just the acknowledgement that it's from them. So always give credit where credit is due. Create discussions, participate respectfully and non-aggressively. I don't really put opinions out there on social media. I don't really do any hard selling. It's really a ditch the pitch kind of world. Again, these aren't my quotes. If they're in quotes, they came from somebody else. Don't be controversial and don't be an expert. I really don't try to be an expert in this area. I know I use the terms SME a couple times, but really it's more about being a facilitator. I'd rather be an expert in finding the right people for someone to connect with rather than be the one that provides the information. Because quite frankly, I don't have all the information, but I know where to get it. And that ultimately becomes really the strength, is building a network of people that you can get. And again, promote your peers, promote your clients, promote your network. Always give credit. And just a couple of snapshots from some people who are doing it. Brett Holman is one of the people that I've been coaching for. I really don't coach him anymore. I did maybe the year before last, help set him up. Brett does some great stuff. He actually creates a blog, which I've been able to use. He's put some really cool stuff out there. He's done some really unique stuff. I think his number of connections is much higher now. You'll notice, by the way, 500 is the number that you want to go to. 500 is the number where after you're up to 500 connections, it doesn't show how many connections you have anymore. And then Karen Kunkel-Nutt, also another one of our coworkers. I think she just left, actually, but she was utilizing this strategy, which is another person. You can look at kind of her testimonial. There's been a couple of other people that I've worked with now in the past year. These are the ones that I've just asked to give testimonials to. I'll have to update Karen's now that she's no longer with us. But, you know, if you looked, I wish I had some before and after. By the way, if anybody does this, please take a before and after snapshot of your profile, because I'd love to see where it was and where it goes after the strategy. I think that's also a great telling of how well you've come on building your strategy. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to you guys. I'm going to stop the recording now and just make it, hold on, let me hit the stop button because I think we've got it. There's no more questions.